The American dream. A simple idea, right? Work hard, start a family, and build a life you can be proud of here in America. It's a dream that built this country. A promise whispered to millions that no matter where you come from, success
The American
is just a
dream,
matter
the idea in this country that if you work hard, you can get ahead.
What if the road to that American dream, always challenging but achievable, is now partially blocked by higher costs, mounting debt, and a system that's no longer
the
built for
American
dreamers?
dream is dead.
What does that mean for the American dream today? Is it still possible to start a family, buy a home, and build a future? Or has the cost of chasing that dream simply become too much? To find that out, we're going to meet two young men. Robert, who's getting started in 1985, and Shawn, who's getting things started today, in modern day. They grew up in two different generations and have the same American dream, but the question is, do they have the same opportunity? To answer that question, we have to time travel back 4 decades to 1985. Robert and his wife are raising their 2 young little girls in their small little town. Robert went to college and got his 4-year degree, bachelor's degree, good job, Robert. And then he got his first real job, starting out of college making $30,000 a year, as was the median of a bachelor's degree earner at the time. More specifically, $33,200. His household has 2 used cars, their bills are only the necessities, and Robert is the sole income of the family. So how are they doing financially? Well, let's start with how he got the job. He got a degree, and that degree, if he financed the entire thing, will run him $202 per month for financing that degree. Both of the cars for their family run $151 per month per car, and the gas and insurance for both of those cars per month will equate to about $91 every single month. You heard me right. Gas and insurance for 2 used cars, $91 for the month. And food for the young growing family, of course, is going to be a little bit more expensive than a family without 2 young kids, so they're spending $300 per month to get the formula, to get everything they need in their fridge to live as a young family. Now the big costs: housing, healthcare, and childcare. How do Robert and his family look in 1985? Well, in 1985, the household income was usually only brought by one of the household members. Robert's family was no different. So Robert's wife could choose to work a job and maybe they could make $40,000, $50,000 a year, but instead decides to stay home and raise the kids. So no childcare cost. Healthcare for the family is $198 per month. And housing costs at the time, well, the median home price was $82,000. We'll assume that Robert and his wife were frugal and bought at 75% of that home value, meaning that their home worth is $61,000. And with an 11% mortgage rate, which was standard at the time, their mortgage comes out to $698. With a few other additions, here is a breakdown of Robert's family expenses. All these expenses are seen as necessities towards going after the American dream, and that American dream is going to cost him $1,877 per month to keep going after it, bringing the yearly total to $22,500 in expenses for this young family, but that is doable with the income they're making at the time. It's tight, but it's doable. The American dream is alive in 1985 for Robert and his family. But what about Shawn in modern day? It's 2025. Shawn and his wife are raising 2 young girls in their small little town. Shawn also went to college and got his 4-year degree. And right out of college, got his first real job, getting his start into his real career. His household has 2 used cars. They only pay for the necessities. And their income, they make the median household income. Now, the median household, 2025, is $80,510 per year. Now, that sounds like a lot more, but can he afford the same lifestyle? Now, Robert made $30,000 after taxes in 1985 at his 14% tax bracket. So for starters, Shawn and his wife pay a slightly higher tax bracket. They pay 21% on the income they make as opposed to the 14% Robert would have paid. So the income that they'll be able to utilize right off jump will be dropped to $63,681. Shawn got a degree just like Robert, and Robert financed his degree, so did Shawn, and Shawn is paying $400 a month for that financed student loan. He and his wife have 2 used cars, and that on average is bringing them a $452 payment per car. So that total payment for them is $904 a month. And gas and insurance for both of those cars in modern day is going to run closer to $250 every single month. And groceries for that young family were $300 in 1985. Today have tripled to about $900 every single month to make sure that formula, food, and everything in the fridge is there for that young family. But now let's get into the biggest cost for Shawn and his family: housing, healthcare, and childcare. For childcare, there's no more easy choices. Per child per month in America, it costs $1,150 to keep your child in childcare. And with Shawn and his wife having 2 young children, there is no possible way they will be able to afford the $2,300 a month charge of childcare. On the healthcare side, there's no more cheap options. Health insurance for this young family is $1,540 a month, and that's one of the more bare minimum plans available. And housing. As we all know, 2025, modern day, home prices are more expensive. But even though the median home price in today's market is $412,000, Shawn and his wife were frugal and bought 75% of the median home value, which in today's market is $308,000. And even with a mortgage rate of 6.75% being lower than what Robert had in 1985, Shawn and his wife's monthly payment on that house will be over $2,500 at $2,510. So Shawn and his young family have accomplished the American dream, just like Robert was able to do 40 years prior, and set himself up with not only 2 used vehicles to travel to and from, 2 beautiful young children to raise into this country, and also a home with everything needed within it to raise them. But the price tag at the end is a little different. Now, Robert and his wife, in 1985, if they chose to go with the sole income, have no child care, their monthly expenses would be $1,877 every single month to raise a young family pursuing the American dream. But in modern day, 2025, Shawn and his young family are paying a much steeper amount per month for everything Robert had: the house, the cars, the 2 young kids, and making sure everybody is taken care of in that household cost him $1,877 per month. But today, Shawn and his family would be paying $6,610 every month to pursue the American dream with their young family. Robert, in 1985 with his young family, in pursuing the American dream, per year would have to pay $22,570. But in modern day, 2025, Shawn and his young family are paying just under 80 grand a year to do the same exact thing. And that's bare minimum. We're not investing, we're not saving anything, no childcare either. If they were to pursue childcare, they'd be looking at another $25,500 a year, and we're already over what they make. And with the median household income being what they make per year at $80,510 and the taxes bringing that down to 63 grand, they're at a $16,000 deficit to being able to support the American dream. So what changed? How did we go from Robert and his young family being able to get into college, get into their first job, start their career, and being able to raise a young family, pursue the American dream, and have enough money to do it, compared to Shawn's young family being buried in expenses doing the same exact thing? Let's summarize it into 4. 1, housing costs have skyrocketed. Home prices have increased 482% since 1985, with home insurance costs and taxes moving up right alongside with it. And in modern day America, if someone can afford the home prices of today, they then have to face the mortgage rates of today. With the median monthly payment for a mortgage in 1985 being $850, today $2,500 is standard and normal in getting a mortgage on a home. Number 2 is wages didn't keep up. Income per household is not what it was in the 80s. Adjusted for inflation, real income growth has stalled and cost of living has far outpaced wage increases. The third reason is the cost of debt has exploded. For example, the cost to get educated in 1985, get your 4-year degree at, say, an out-of-state college, it would be $6,121 to get that degree. Whereas in modern day, that price is now $45,413 to go to a 4-year out-of-state college and get your bachelor's degree. Average credit card debt per household in 85, just under $500. In modern day America, it's over $7,500 per household, with most families relying on credit cards to even pay their bills, their utilities. And basic necessities cost more money. The luxuries of the world, the travel of the world, the fun things of the world have relatively stayed kind of neutral in their price point, but the necessities of Americans have drastically increased. Gas, groceries, childcare, housing, it's all drastically increased in cost. For Shawn, starting a family and achieving the American dream in modern day 2025 is not just difficult, it's mathematically impossible. So what does he do? You either delay homeownership and miss out on the equity that could grow over time. You take on more debt to supplement for the income you don't have to survive. 3, you get a second job or your wife goes to work, but now we're looking at having to pay for childcare. Or 4, Shawn and his family just accept that the American dream is out of reach. So what's the key out of this mess? A few major factors that would change things: more housing supply, wage growth, and debt restructuring. And frankly, there's more solutions than potentially just that, but the first step is understanding that there's a problem.
The American dream may not be defined the same way as older Americans do.
The American dream is dead for our generation, frankly. Our purchasing power is some of the lowest in history.
Understanding things aren't the way they typically were, because if we don't talk about it, nothing will ever change. Robert and his family from 1985 on would achieve the American dream, while Shawn sits in modern day 2025 with his family, struggling, albeit on the same exact path with the same exact goal that prior generations had as well. The math doesn't lie. It is more strenuous to afford a home than it's ever been before. It is more difficult to raise a young family in modern day America than it's ever been. And the American dream, though still present, has never been harder to obtain. And that leaves us with the question running through all of these numbers for a person like Shawn sitting out there: is the American dream still alive, or is it slowly dying?